Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for waiting the couple of minutes that we did to allow people to rush in and join the meeting. It is my pleasure today to introduce to you one of our research assistants who's been doing work across teaching and learning related topics in the faculty, and that is Ms. LATO SETE. And we really appreciate you giving us of your time to talk us through some of the work that you've been doing in auditing the virtual learning environment within the Faculty of Health Sciences, and maybe drawing some inferences to what that means for curriculum and for the ways in which we are setting up online environments for better student learning. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to LATO and invite her to show us some of her research. Thanks, LATO.
Thank you so much, Shirra. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone is well today. Before I begin, I see I don't have the option to share my screen from the side, so I'm not sure how that works.
So I'm going to jump in and ask the LXD team if they will please just give you permission to share.
Okay, thank you for that. Can we just give it a minute or two while I get that done?
Yes, sure. I don't know if you're going to need to restart that.
No, I can see I've got access now.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, while you're finding your slides and you're sharing your screen, maybe you can give us a little bit of background about how long you've been doing this work and, a little bit about how you managed to do it, or you're going to incorporate that in your presentation.
I sort of incorporated it.
Okay. All right. Lovely.
Yeah, I hope.
Okay, that's great. We can see your slides. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Once again, good day, everybody. I'm LATO SETE, one of the research assistants in the Teaching and Learning Office, as Shirra has introduced me so kindly. And I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to present and share some of the work that I do or my contribution to our department and the faculty at large on this platform. But before I begin, I'd like to pose two questions for you to keep in mind as we progress through this webinar. You don't need to answer them now, but they're worth reflecting on. Firstly, what defines a high-quality online learning experience from the student's perspective, and how consistently is this delivered across our courses? Secondly, where are the hidden strengths and silent gaps in our digital pedagogy, and how can we use this insight to innovate? Today, I'll be sharing insights into one of the integral parts of my daily tasks, known as the Virtual Learning Environment Audit. So the Virtual Learning Environment Audit is a systematic evaluation of the digital platforms and tools used to support teaching and online learning. When I first began working on the audit, it was in 2023 when I joined as an intern. And the primary aim was to explore the online teaching and learning pedagogies that emerged in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We focused on how blended learning was integrated, how students navigated the digital platforms, and the assessment methods used. But over time, we realized that these same objectives could be applied more broadly, not just to monitor and evaluate online learning, but also as a valuable tool in the curriculum review process across different programs in the faculty. To explain the VLE audit, I'll be using the 5 W's and 1 H method, which is the who, what, when, where, why, and how. To begin with, who? The VLE is targeted at individuals that can benefit from it, which are the students and staff. By staff, I mean lecturers, administrators, course coordinators, and others involved in course delivery and support. So I urge you to try and find where you think you can apply the audit in your context or in your role in the university. The second W is what. So we're looking at what is being audited. The audit tool, which was developed on RedCap, evaluates 8 key aspects of online pedagogy, namely the introduction, navigation, basic content, communication, interactive or collaborative items, assessment, marking, evaluation and feedback, and evidence of blended learning. We essentially look at the introduction of the course, which is usually the homepage that welcomes the student with the provision of the lecturer's contact details, the learning objectives, the timetable, an assessment plan, followed by the navigation, which seeks to find out whether the students easily know where to start and what is next. Are the pages in a logical sequence, and so forth. Next on the form would be the basic content section, where we look at the different formats in which content is being presented on the platform. And in a way, we look at the quantity of the content. So for instance, if we observe that most of the lecture notes are in PDF format, then we'd indicate this as the site being used as a document repository. Next on the audit form is the communication section, where we observe the available modes of communication between the lecturers and the students, and if they are being utilized. A discussion forum would be an example of that. So if a topic has been posted on the discussion forum and there is engagement, we can see this back and forth responses from students amongst each other and interaction from the lecturer, then this would be justified as good use of the LMS itself. So on some courses that we've evaluated so far, the lecturers do state in the homepage to encourage students to use the discussion forum, not just for a topical discussion, but as just a channel of communication. So instead of the lecturer also having 5 students emailing them and asking them about the same question, it's easier if it's discussed in the discussion forum. But this is just to give you a quick view at the auditing tool and answer the question on what. I won't go through the entire form now, but if you'd like to see more of it, kindly let me know at the end of the presentation. The next W is when. So the audit is conducted during the curriculum review process, which happens throughout the year for the academic programs. So far, we've audited or are in the process of auditing 3 academic programs within the faculty. Once we've been granted access as the auditors by course coordinators or lecturers or course admin, we ensure that the audit does not disrupt the live course sites. So we don't make any changes. So we'd get access and be given roles as observer, not designer or teacher. That would just give us more access to make changes, and it gets to a point where some of the courses you have the urge to want to make changes, just move a little icons there or add a little note here or do that. So sometimes us being observers is also a safer option. The next W is where. The virtual learning environment we audit are platforms such as Ulwazi or Moodle, depending on the program. So for the School of Therapeutic Sciences, most of the online course content is uploaded on Moodle, but for the rest of the faculty, we use Ulwazi. So these platforms do serve as the digital spaces where students engage with the course content, communicate with the lecturers, and complete assessments. Next is the why. So what is the purpose? Why are we actually doing this? But we've realized from most of our results that we've obtained from the audit that it allows for enhancement in student navigation, making it easier for learners to find key resources like timetables, assessment plans, discussion forums, or basic content. It also helps identify inconsistencies in course design across programs, which can lead to more equitable and efficient learning experiences. So we've seen that most courses are not designed the same way throughout the faculty. And us identifying certain inconsistencies in course design. So what might work for one course might not work for the other course. And it helps us identify these issues and improve to say, okay, maybe embedding YouTube videos in a more theoretical course might not be too beneficial for the students, but for the students who are in clinical spaces, watching a quick tutorial on how to do something while you at the bedside might be more beneficial for you. We've also noted that it provides data-driven insights that inform curriculum development, instructional design, and faculty support strategies. It supports continuous improvement by aligning with models like SIP and ADDIE, which guide educational evaluation and design. And lastly, the 1H is our how. So here are a few steps that we follow when it comes to our auditing process. So the audit is carried out by reviewing course sites, hosted on platforms like Moodle or Ulwazi. Using the RedCap survey or the audit tool, each section is then scored systematically. The data is then exported and analyzed, often in Excel, and used to generate reports. These reports inform curriculum review and are interpreted using models like SIP and ADDIE to guide improvements in course design and delivery. The audits are then conducted by myself with the assistance of our research assistant interns in our teaching and learning office within the CHSE, which is the umbrella of ours. So this is an example of what the audit tool looks like. I can share a screen better. Let me do this actually. Excuse me while I do this. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. So this is an example of this is actually what our auditing tool looks like. It's the audit form that we use. So firstly, we just like some identification of which program are we auditing, the years of study. We look at the course code, name of the course, number of students enrolled in the course is optional. What is the name of the module or section or block being audited, and the platform where the course is primarily offered. So this is what I was talking about when I was saying the sections. So it's the introduction section, the navigation, basic content, communication, interactive, and there's criteria under each section. We also have a little text box here to give more information and elaborate on what other things we might find in the courses. Because it's not, one thing I've learned is that a lot of things are not as black and white as we'd like them to be. We can't really fit everything in a box and standardize everything. So these description boxes are really helpful when it comes to that. Then we've got accessibility issues. Accessibility section checks the language, the styles, text for images, captions, transcripts, and then here, evidence of blended learning. So we'll check is the AI being used? Is the section or module being gamified? Are there in-person learning activities? Because remember in the beginning, I did state that this tool was actually designed to explore the online teaching and learning pedagogies that emerged in response to COVID-19. And then lastly, we have our overall impression, which is usually a summary of everything we've put up in here. Yeah, thank you very much. That's it from me. In conclusion, I'd just like to say the virtual learning environment has proven to be more than just a checklist. It's a lens through which we can critically examine the digital learning spaces that we create for our students. So by evaluating elements like navigation, content delivery, communication, and assessment, we're not only identifying gaps, but also uncovering opportunities for innovation and improvement. As we continue to integrate models like SIP and ADDIE into our curriculum review processes, the audit becomes a more strategic tool for enhancing teaching and learning. I'd like to say it supports evidence-based decisions. It promotes consistency, across all programs actually, and ultimately contributes to a more equitable and engaging learning experience. I hope this brief presentation has sparked some ideas for how you might apply similar approaches in your own context. If you'd like to explore the audit tool further or discuss how it could be adapted to your program, I'd be happy to connect after the session. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions and reflections.
Thank you, LATO. I see clapping hands. That's great. So, colleagues, I'm going to ask if you do have questions to start off with. And Michael, you're going to start us. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, LATO. 2 quick questions.
Yes.
So if I understood your presentation properly, virtual learning environments enable students to be self-sufficient. Is that correct?
Yes, in a sense, it allows students to navigate the online course content better. So once the lecturer has uploaded all the learning materials, all the activities that they need to engage with, all the assignments, it allows the students to even create maybe their own personal timetable and structure their own time and learning. So there is some element of a self-directed learning.
So that's my question. So
Yeah.
there are some colleagues who are not persuaded by this. They say this is not a correspondence university. So how do we persuade them about the usefulness of a well-informed and well-constructed virtual learning environment?
I think everything is just a learning curve. And it goes with, we also need to understand we can't convince the entire world to sway left when we wanted to. So I think it's a step-by-step process. Hence, we're starting with and implementing it into the curriculum review. So most programs will notice that we have issues in our program and we do need assistance. So it's things like this that we implement into our curriculum review process that can help people hopefully see that this can be beneficial and this can move us forward as a faculty or as a university.
Okay, then my next practical one is there are students who are not coping for most courses.
Yes.
And if we've got a proper virtual learning environment, I assume there'll be lots of information. And these students who are not coping will have a tough time navigating that information. So how is it possible for them to find information quickly? I know you're going to say better design, etc. But in reality, when students are struggling, looking through a website is one of the last things that they do. And also, just as a follow-up comment on that, do you have an example of a good constructed virtual learning environment? I think that will be helpful for us next time to see what a gold standard can be, because all of us have got our own Ulwazi site, but we need some comparison to see if we're on the right track or not. Okay, thanks. That's me finished.
Okay. You know, with the question of students being able to navigate, we're not trying to increase their workload. And like I said earlier on, that not every course will be designed the same way. So it's a matter of starting somewhere. If we have a starting point, students get used to, if we have first year students that get into the faculty and find that for a certain course, they've got a well-designed LMS that can help them navigate, automatically it engages them and allows them to see what they want, what they don't want. And also we've been having some conversations with students to say, how can we help you? What are you struggling with in terms of the whole curriculum review? And students are coming forth to state their issues. So a practical example right now, I might not actually have an answer to, but I repeat, it's all in the process of where we are now and where we'd like to go, and actually allowing everybody to be a stakeholder in what we're doing. And secondly, for your last question, I do not have the permission to display a well-designed course, but I can talk to my bosses and see if we can get you a look into something. Is that okay?
I would have assumed it would be good advertising for them. They would be bragging that, look, we're the exemplar for the faculty about how we've designed our course.
Yeah, no, I can still get you. I just need the permission. So we do have them, but I just need the permission from them to the go ahead to say, of course.
So Michael, if I can chip in there and say that I agree with you, an exemplar would be very useful. But even the checklist that LATO and her team have developed is quite useful for academics when they're setting up their homepage or whatever of their course, so that you can see that you've included things that the students are saying helps them in navigating a course and also understanding the extent of it. You know, we used to just give out handbooks and say, well, it's your fault if you didn't read the handbook. But I think in this day and age, it's much better if we can lead students through, particularly to give them the familiarity of not only must you check the course page every day, but you actually should do it multiple times a day because people can be posting and you can be learning things. To view it as another resource rather than as an additional burden on academics and also additional time wasting for students, which I think is the argument that some academics put out there. So to see it as an assistance to the kind of teaching that we do rather than a competition. And I know that the thinking around it is not sympathetic, but through the process of this audit, it's been quite interesting to see how well-designed sites have drawn students in. So I agree with you. An exemplar would be a good idea. Let's work on that one later.
Okay, no problem. No. Are there any other questions?
So I'm going to ask you something. And I think it's been knocking around in my head for a while. You say that this information is coming back to the curriculum development team and it's giving people an idea of the lay of the land of the faculty with regard to the virtual learning environment. Where do you think that information should go further?
In terms of curriculum development?
Yeah, well, I mean, so if a department doesn't know that their site doesn't meet all of those criteria that you've laid out, how will they get to know?
I think it's platforms like the weekly Wednesday webinar and what CHSE actually stands for, Shirra, that will help us get the word out there. Because even when I was busy designing the slides, in my mind, I kept on saying, yes, I know the people that I work with who will also be attending this presentation online already have some idea of what the VLE is. But for somebody that's outside and has no clue on what this is, how do I start and explain it in a way that might be more sensible to them and in a way that they can relate it to what they do in their context. So I think it's platforms like the weekly Wednesday webinars, and I just wish we got more traction than we're actually getting now, more credit than we're actually getting now as CHSE. But I do commend the efforts of the weekly Wednesday webinars, the workshops the courses that are being included for professional development. And also, word of mouth and the corridor conversations, they actually help a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I take that under advisement. Michael, are you going to contribute to this discussion?
Yes, Lato, sorry, hopefully you don't think I'm rude, but the problem with these weekly seminars is we've got like-minded people. The reason we're attending is that we've got an interest in these kind of activities. And so if we've got an interest, it shows that hopefully we're trying to implement them, but the people you're trying to reach are the ones who are resistant. So obviously it's not your fault, but I think we need better strategies of trying to get everyone on board, as you said. I don't have a good idea of how we do so, but it's just a constraint that I think this forum faces. Thanks.
Yeah. Kutlwano, I see you've put a comment in the chat, which LATO was thinking about answering in the chat. But the question of do lecturers or course coordinators, and those are definitely different levels of people, get feedback after the audits. And I mean, you can take it right down. Is a head of school informed? Is a head of department informed? Is the lecturer informed? And okay, so you want to answer that question first, and then maybe we can discuss it a bit.
So they are informed, but like I said, we've recently only incorporated the VLE audit into our curriculum review process. So any feedback that they do get, they're going to get through our maybe weekly or monthly meetings that we get. So it also gives us time to audit and get results, get reports from it, and then we give feedback. But it's usually I'm trying to answer without exposing too many people and too much information on certain people. But we'd meet with like HODs of departments, and they would then scaffold and filter out in their meetings to say, these are the issues we've got. So if some things we do give some liberty to say, okay, if this department is going through such a process, these are the challenges that they're facing with the online learning environment. Let them try and come up with solutions to see what they are capable of. And then we can meet and match those solutions and work forward.
So I think it's part of this triangle, because your answer to me sounds like you're giving this information to people who are actively engaging in curriculum change already. So they're wanting to improve what they do, or they've approached us and we're talking about course redesign, or they've had to redesign because they were told your course has to be redesigned for whatever reason, which is fine, but it's not inclusive. And so my question is, are we going to roll this out in an inclusive way to look at every single course that has a presence from this faculty on the virtual learning environment? And if we do, how do we then think about giving feedback to people who haven't requested the audit? And lastly, within your audit, you're talking about the specific things that you can see when you go in and you fill in your checklist, but I'm assuming also that you're generating reports of student engagement and time on task and those kinds of things from the back end of Ulwazi, so that you can also help lecturers understand what the usage is of what they've actually done, and therefore what they might do about it. And then the next step would be to refer them to the learning experience designers, the team which we're hoping to build up, to give them better ideas of things they could do on that virtual learning environment. So it's a three-way thing, I think, of people wanting the information and then you giving them sufficient for them to be able to redesign perhaps and improve, but Michael's point, which does worry me enormously, is what about all those people who aren't engaged, haven't engaged, and didn't ask for it? Is that information that we're somehow now going to take out to them?
So for now, priority has been on those who, like you said, who have approached us to say we do need help. But overall, we have planned to say, you know what, the entire faculty needs to be audited. So that has been in conversation somewhat. But yeah, it's a general perspective. And I think, like Michael was saying, that only the people who are interested in such discussions of weekly Wednesday webinars are the ones that actually attend and the ones that actually get this information. But we can do workshops. I think this actually can be turned into a workshop. It can be turned into something bigger because it's very brief.
Yes.
It's very brief and just an overlay of what we actually do. I didn't go into much more detail, but I think we can turn it into a workshop and sort of personalize it to have people engage themselves and try and do the audits themselves than us taking on all the workload.
Well, I mean, I think that that's the important thing. It's the design instruction. So if you're saying these things are important for a virtual learning environment, then people need to take that into account when they design. I think there's also a bigger question here which we need to engage with. And I'm going to say it now because if anybody comes to look at this video later, the more times we say it, the better. A couple of weeks ago, we had the copyright librarian from the Central Library talking to us about copyright. So we sometimes get resistance from lecturers, particularly about the question of who authorized you? Who are you to come and have a look at the work that we've got up on our course, and certainly to judge it, and also the intellectual copyright they claim on whatever's mounted on their Ulwazi site. So I do want to make it clear for the purposes of anybody who is going to engage and look back on this, that the Wits librarian actually took out the statute, chapter and verse, to say that any academic work done at Wits for academic purposes, including teaching, the university holds the copyright. And there is no such thing as my own protected intellectual capital, as it were, even if, and I know lecturers do, they spend a lot of time extracting from textbooks and finding amazing video clips and putting in the right digital references, etc., in their work. And so the compilation might be according to their own intellectual understanding of what they're presenting. But the content on the virtual learning environment remains the property of the university. And so that's an important point, I think, that people need to understand upfront about any kind of audit, whether it's been done by their head of department or whether it's been done by somebody external, is that it used to be when people walked into their classroom, it was their classroom and the doors could stay closed and nobody could come in and audit or have a look at what you were teaching without your permission. Whereas I think now that people are much more used to the concept of posting things online, they need to understand that it's not the same situation as closing your doors in the classroom.
But you'd be surprised, Shirra, the amount of resistance we're still getting on getting access to these courses. Like I was saying, we get observer roles. Sometimes we do need urgent access to a course, maybe for whatever reasons. But the back and forth in emails that we need to do and the amount of CCing that goes on is yeah, it's hectic. It's quite hectic. So it's not always easy. And sometimes we because it's not just me who audits and gets asks for access to the course. And then there's somebody else, like from the learning design team, that we need to ask access for, so they can see how they can help the lecturer redesign the course and make it look, more acceptable for students. So it's not just us, but there is still a lot of resistance.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether Michael's point doesn't hold true here as well, that people just don't know about it and they consider it an outside influence and they're not on board with the idea of improving things that they feel they've been told to do. And so it might just be that overall resistance to the idea that there is a better way of doing things, and doesn't necessarily have to take them the time, although invariably it does take more time. but that there is assistance, that they can bounce ideas off people and also ask learning experience designers about different ways of looking at what it is they're presenting and how they're presenting it to the students, and allowing the students opportunity to engage as well. So I do think that the resistance that you're talking about is resistance because people are not aware that they should be, first of all, looking at their content from year to year, because the courses roll. And I've sometimes seen like 2022 or 2023 dates on things that are being presented this year. So I think that it is important to enhance awareness, and maybe, over and above where these things are presented, like faculty board, etc., there should be a real active push to get through to the lecturers on the ground who are actually the ones who are posting things. So you've given me something to think about, certainly. And yeah, I think that the work you're doing is really valuable. And I thank you all as a team also, but as you as an individual who's pushed through so hard with it. And I think we have to try and get people to lose their skepticism and their defensiveness about what they've got, and acknowledge that we actually can all learn from each other. That's another thing that bothers them, because they want to feel like they're the experts in the subject, and they may be the experts in their subject, but not in the ways of putting it across. And maybe that's something that we need to work on more. So you've given me things to add and ideas to put into many more webinar series.
I'm glad to hear that. But thank you so much again, Shirra, for the opportunity to present. I'm glad and I hope that some word has gone out there, not just you, but whoever else has joined the meeting today is able to go out and share the knowledge that's been imparted on them today.
Thank you, LATO. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. I hope you did see that we did a double advertising header. We already advertised next week's webinar, where we're going to be chatting with Scott Smalley, who used to be at WITS and is now the Africa representative for Loop, which is our curriculum mapping software that we've been involved with for many years. And he's going to come and talk to us about the mapping project at WITS, specifically in our faculty, and how far along we are, and advantages of using that program. So he's going to be able to show us, hopefully, some technical advances that we've had. And so I invite all of you to come along and listen to that, and to share that information around. Thanks for joining us today. I wish you a very happy Wednesday. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.